pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone to another session of Goldendale City Council on June 7th, 2021. Connor, would you call the roll?
Okay. Kevin?
I think you're still on mute, huh?
No, I'm not. Am I? I'm unmuted. Kevin? He's here.
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, I thought I did that already. Kevin? We'll get back to him. Well, everybody else is here. Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. So we have all members present or on the phone for this meeting. We don't have a public hearing tonight. We'll begin with the agenda, and we have a motion to accept the agenda and the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda for this session of City Council and the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by Mr. Jay Olson on fireworks sales. Jay.
I'm Jerry Olson. I'm here with the Lions Club, and basically just to touch bases with you about the 4th of July fireworks. I believe you all have a copy already of the business license, the liability insurance
Right here.
that's taken care of. And I'm just here to kind of double check on that and see if you have questions that I can't answer.
One of the things we've noticed is as far as on
Yeah.
July 4th and on New Year's Eve, we've had really good compliance on the restrictions that were put on as far as the hours. And that does a lot to promote the possibility for fireworks sales.
Try to be good neighbors.
You're doing fine.
Yeah, and, as far as hours and all that, of course, that's your ballpark, not mine. You set those, so.
And we'll
I don't have anything else. I don't know whether you do or not.
Any questions or comments from the council, Mr. Olson?
Thank you for taking the time to come in and ask us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item is department reports. We'll begin with Police Chief Jay Hunsaker, Goldendale Police Department.
Okay, I have 3 items. I have started the background investigation on the lateral officer for new hire for the 9th position. He already lives here, so we've got that process started. Hopefully we can get him online soon. Things are starting to pick up as far as calls for service with the summer coming on, so we have seen a little bit of increase. Also, we had delivered what is called a drug incinerator, right? And it's a 4-agency purchase. GPD, White Salmon Bingen, Prosecutor's Office for Klickitat County, and the Sheriff's Office. So we're hoping to get that on board and stuff like that, but we can incinerate our own drugs, and it's going to save time and cost. We're transferring drugs all the way over to Spokane. They have it done by incinerator, so we're excited with that. But it's a multi-agency purchase and for use, so we can just take care of everything right here.
That's exactly the way to do it. Thank you, Jay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. I talked with Noah Halm, our Goldendale Fire Department chief, and said things have been fairly quiet. They are watching, of course, as far as the situation on the dryness. We'll be watching as we come up to 4th of July to make sure we're okay, but right now, past history has shown that the respect for the firework hours and restrictions has been working, and we're happy with that. And at this time, we don't plan to take any other action than to have that flyer put out on the times when they can be used and not. And otherwise, he said it was quiet for the fire department. Goldendale Public Works, Doug Phantom is on. Doug?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. I just have a couple things. Right now, we're kind of working on trimming trees back that are hanging over the road and sidewalks. We're doing as much mowing of weeds and spraying as we can get done with the personnel we have. And we're gonna start hopefully crack sealing next Monday. And the duration of that will be about 2 weeks, I'm hoping, maybe less. And that's about all I got tonight.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is council business. and we'll
Recording in
begin with-
progress.
Pardon me?
Sorry,
What was it?
the camera talked.
I was not telling me to speak up. First item on council business is the Ireland water connection outside the city limits. Piece of business, and Dustin Conroy will present that. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, you bet. So Larry asked me to look into the proposed connection. Tom Ireland has requested connections for his property out off Pipeline Road. I've reviewed it, I wrote a letter. This is something the city council has done in the past. It's required to come before city council anytime it's a connection outside the city limits. The water system has plenty of capacity to serve these lots. There's a water main directly adjacent to the parcel. If there is not enough pressure, the landowner will be required to provide a booster pump, not at the city's expense, but at their own. There are other lots currently served by the city water system, so this isn't something that's unique. One requirement is that many times municipalities require an annexation covenant. Basically, if the city ever wants to annex that property, the landowner cannot, contest it. They would agree to be annexed at that time. And so that's one of the items I recommend that you guys include. And I've attached a copy of his short plat that's pending approval from Clickitat County. It's a 4-lot short plat, and I believe also its neighbor to the east has requested water too, so there'd be a total of 5 connections potentially from this. That is all I have.
Any questions or comments from the council before taking action?
As far as who's doing the work and who's paying for the work for this,
Pardon me?
how's the work taking place? Who's doing the work to put these connections in?
So the city, the landowner actually has to pay for the water connection. So the city actually makes the tap and extends the water line to the right-of-way. And at that point, it becomes a landowner's responsibility. So, and the fee for a connection outside the city limits, I don't have that with me, but it's $4,000, which is more than a connection inside the city limits also.
Is that $4,000 per lot, or is that just?
Yeah, it's per connection.
Per lot, okay.
Yep.
Is there a backflow device on that for all those lots?
No, so each lot will have its own tap. And so there will not be a backflow unless they put one on for an underground sprinkler system or something like that. It's just like a city tap.
Sure. Would there be reason to give consideration to a backflow device since they're upstream of the entire city?
I don't believe so. There's, all the fire flow and everything shows that, unless there was some emergency, there shouldn't be any reason why water would flow back into the system. There should be 20 pounds of pressure maintained at all times at the connection point. So that's normally the only time that you would worry about putting a backflow device on, is if there was potential for that, and sucking the water basically out of someone's water heater or something like that. But otherwise, it's just a standard connection, just like in the city limits.
Any other comments or questions?
What is the city's total water right versus what's used right now? Do you happen to know?
I
Are
do
we
not.
at 50%, are we?
No, I think you're closer probably to like 60%, 65% use.
Okay.
So I think you've got quite a bit available. I'm going off just memory from
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a year ago, so don't quote me on that. But you guys have considerable amount of water available.
Yeah. I just, at some point in the future, as you start pushing maybe 75, I don't know what the number is, but maybe really focusing on reserves for within city limits, because you may push that up to 90, 100% and then realize that all of a sudden you're having to do curtailments because there's reduced water supply available.
Yeah.
Just something for folks to think about. Sure.
And keep in mind too that that big number also, that the gas energy plant is the main consumptor of that. So residential water use is still relatively low compared in general
Sure. Yeah.
on your system.
Well, thank you, Dustin.
Yeah, you bet.
Larry, we had a discussion this afternoon on the private booster pump. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that point? Or?
Well, Dustin already mentioned it, it's just
Okay.
that if there's a need or there is a want to have a higher pressure, the pressure can be increased by a booster pump, but it's totally the responsibility of the landowner to provide that, purchase it, and to pay for it. The city does not have any responsibility with regard to supplying electricity towards or constructing a booster pump.
Very good. Very good. I thought that needed to be clear. Thank you.
And then the only other thing,
I
go ahead, Doug.
just wanted to add in the maintenance of that, just so the city doesn't ever have that responsibility kind of moved over to them if they were to add a booster pump. And I'd also like to add that I have talked with Larry, and I think that will be our last set of connections going north from town, as I think we're probably gonna start running into contact time issues. So I think moving forward, those will probably be the furthest north, pending a little bit of looking into to see if we still have room to add another service or two, because I know there's a lot of development happening right above that area.
Thank you, Doug.
And then one last comment. Dustin, I just want to confirm, you said that it's not 4 connections, but the request is for 5?
That's my understanding, is that the request is for 5 connections.
Okay, last question. What's the cost of connecting to the main line versus a line in the city? I know that outside the city limits is a higher connection fee, but we're talking bigger valves, probably more excavation. I mean, is it marginal, or is it a considerable cost increase to put the main T on the main line out to these other connections?
We'll have Doug. Doug, why don't you answer that one? I think you might have a better handle on that.
As far as the cost goes, it's super comparable. We'll do a single push across Pipeline Road, so we won't have to disturb the surface. And as far as the fittings goes, each individual lot will contribute to the tap and the fittings coming across. So we're more than covered on that as far as the initial tapping process.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
With that, do we have a motion to approve these connections?
Well, I have a question because
Sure.
on the request it says 4, but it was mentioned that there's 5. So which one is it?
I believe it's 5 connections that they're requesting. There's the 4 for the 4-lot short plat, and then the neighbor to the east would also like to be connected as part of this. And so a total of 5 connections.
Okay. So we need to amend the request then?
Yeah,
Yes.
I do.
Okay, and Doug, are we good with the 5 connections?
Yeah, we have plenty of water up there. Another thing that, I think it was Lauren that asked about the cost. The developer will incur the cost of all the fittings and everything as well on top of that $4,000 per connection fee.
Okay,
So
so,
it's not just a flat 4,000.
okay,
Very good.
so I'll make the motion to approve up to 5 water service connections for, let me back up. I move to approve 4 water service connections for Tom Ireland and 1 additional connection for a future request that we may receive. Is that appropriate?
If we could add that it's still subject to the execution of an annexation contract.
Okay. Subject to the execution of the annexation covenant for all properties and for each connection.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Very good.
So just a clarification that the request that come into the city was already approved by council, not that we expect to see that request again. So 5 today.
Yeah, 5.
We didn't have to see.
4 for Tom and 1 for the neighbor.
It's been moved and approved to accept 4 water service connections for Tom Ireland for lots 1 through 4 of short plat number 2021-05, and 1 additional connection for a neighboring parcel to the east of this development, all within Clicquot County, subject to the execution of an annexation covenant. Not further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll hear from Kevin.
He's got his hand up,
Okay,
but you already voted.
well, that may be his vote.
I don't know, he's
Mayor,
not-
I'll go ahead and go with, I will agree to it. The question I asked, or wanted to ask was, my concern was in the future. If they build one house on, I don't know how big the properties are, I have no idea, on a half an acre, they can chop that up and 5 connections turns into 20 connections, turns into 30 connections. So that was my only concern, but I will go ahead and approve this because we need development in our town.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. The next item, Justin Conroy will also present his agreement with Silver Water Ministries on sewer connection.
You bet. Just one quick note on that last one, actually, the zoning for the Tom Islanders property is 5 acre minimum zone, which is, lots are 5 minimum, so it can't be broken up further. So 5 connections is the maximum at this time. For Stillwater Ministries, so this was brought to the city council a meeting or 2 ago. What has happened since then is Larry has taken, this is the agreement to share the cost across the sewer line going under Simcoe Drive, basically right there at Dollar General, and then running to the north. And basically this is to split the cost of that sewer line under that roadway, making the connection to the existing manhole on the south side of the road, and then sharing the cost also for the manhole on the north side of the road. Stillwater Ministries is located to the north, and they are developing the youth center to there and are in need of a sewer connection. So this was a win-win situation for the city. The city currently has a crossing to the east of this that has been crushed, and the street would need to be dug up to fix that connection, or there's, we can just do 1 connection, 1 crossing of Simcoe Drive, and hopefully not have to cut the street if we can get a boring to work to go under the roadway. So what this agreement is an agreement to share the cost on a 50-50 basis. The city will actually take the project out for bid and then be reimbursed by Stillwater Ministries as requested by the city attorney.
Very good.
And I believe the agreement's already been executed by Stillwater Ministries. Randy Wyrick's actually here, and so do you guys have any questions?
Any questions or comments to that, Justin or to Larry?
My only question was just to make to make sure that the city doesn't have more of a cash outlay than just fixing the crushed pipe. But also, I believe at the last meeting you mentioned there were some ancillary benefits in addition to not just servicing this one site. So
Sure. So the city will actually have some additional costs because they intend to extend a new line from the manhole on the north side of the road to the east, which services Chevron and the RV park on the north side of the road. So that property to the north of that can be served by this new sewer line as well. The sewer, there's some undeveloped property north of that RV park and kind of north of Chevron that would need to connect into this manhole if it's developed at some point in the future. So that would be the city's benefit. You're providing a line for someone to potentially connect to in the future. And then also the new line that's going to run from this proposed manhole to the existing one is all outside the roadway. It should be much easier to dig than across the street, and you won't have to deal with traffic control and everything. So that's kind of the benefit of that.
Good explanation, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other comments or questions? Does Kevin have his hand up?
Nope.
Okay. Call for a motion.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with the Stillwater Ministries for the purpose of sharing cost for the installation of a new manhole and new sewer main across Simcoe Drive.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Stillwater Ministries for the purpose of sharing costs for the installation of a new manhole and a new sewer main crossing of Simcoe Drive. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. The next item has to do with the meeting of the Budget Committee this last week and its recommendation, and Larry Bellamy will present that discussion.
We met with the budget committee and discussed beginning cash balances, where we were with that, as well as the capital outlay requests that were considered as part of the 2021 budget. We explained that a lot of things had changed with regard to those capital outlays, especially in regards to things being done for lesser costs, and some of the costs were postponed till next year because we don't have to pay a principal cost. For instance, we don't have to pay a principal payment on either the street sweeper or the vac truck until 2022. So there's quite a bit of savings there as well. Because of these reductions in costs, the committee also discussed converting a current position that we have that is a 6-month seasonal position, primarily to take care of the flowers and to do other work in public works as he can become available for that. Sometimes we've even extended it for 9 months. But we'd like to change that from a part-time seasonal position to a full-time position to help with the increasing responsibilities of the water and sewer department and the public works crew. And there is quite a need, which we explained in quite a bit of detail with the budget committee. And the budget committee would like to, and then finally, I guess I wanted to say that no amendments to the budget are needed at this time partially because of this cost savings. And so the recommendation of the budget committee was to go ahead and convert that position from a 6-month seasonal position to a full-time position. And it is also highly recommended by our Public Works Supervisor, Doug Grantham. And since there's no budget recommendation needed at this time, or change needed at this time, we are just asking if the council concur with this, and we'd like to post that job tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Any other comments or questions?
Need a motion on that, or? No.
No, just concurrence, usually nodding of
Very
heads.
good.
Take care of it.
I just ask if, I think for the other council members, the documentation that Doug had breakdown of hours. I think if we can get that to the other council members so that they can see where Public Works falls short basically in personnel versus the hours of work required.
Yep.
Doug, did you get it? Did you hear that request?
I think I heard it, was it that Phil wanted me to extend that right down to the rest of the council members?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
It paints quite the picture, and I think it'd be beneficial for everybody to see that, even for future projects and for, different requests to kind of see what we're looking at every time we add a job to you guys.
And one thing when I do that as well, I know I was in person, and I'm not gonna go into big detail, but, once that is sent to the rest of the council members, I want you to keep in mind that those numbers are as if a snowflake never hits the ground. We never do anything in the watershed, things that we can't put a number on, because we don't know if we're gonna plow once or for 2 months straight. So, when you look at those numbers, that's something to take into consideration, but I'll definitely get that emailed or put in your guys' boxes.
Is this going to be an internal hire of existing staff, or is it going to be posted?
We have to post it in-house first.
Okay.
So there is a person that does work for the city that could apply during that time, and we have to consider the in-house posting, or in-house request first, before we go with an outside posting.
We have concurrence to take this action. Very good. Thank you, each one of you. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of a succession planning committee. Larry will give us some of the details on that.
Okay, as discussed in the Goldendale Municipal Code under 2.04.070, there is a code section that talks about special committees being appointed. And it says that the special committee shall have a purpose, and that once that purpose is accomplished, it shall cease to exist. So the reason for the special committee is to discuss and to make sure that these individuals have a chance to develop a succession plan, because the city administrator and the city clerk treasurer have announced that they intend to retire sometime in July of 2022. And we want to see a smooth transition. All of us want to see a smooth transition if we can accomplish that. And the mayor would like to appoint 3 council members to that position, and there I'll leave it up to you, Mayor, to do that.
I will.
Go ahead.
Good, thank you. I've had discussions regarding appointment of council members to this committee, and the council members that I'm appointing are Andy Holm, our Mayor Pro Tem, Lauren Mager, City Councilman, and City Councilman Mylan Walling. To make a 3-person committee, we'll be working with the mayor and the city administrator on all the details of working out this succession. These are very important posts. In addition, this committee will be discussing some possible future needs as far as a head of Public Works Department, because Larry is carrying that at this time, as well as possibly a land planning or service, community services director, if those things are decided, recommended by the council and agreed to by the council. That's the whole purpose of this, I'm appointing them, but with the approval of the council. Do we have agreement to serve?
Yes,
I
I
know
will
we've agreed this.
serve at your request.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate all of your willingness. We'll probably be meeting fairly often to get things rolling and moving.
We just added that on there.
Pardon me? Well, if I left it on there, nobody say anything.
Notice you already agreed, so.
That's the way these things go. Thank you all. I think we'll all enjoy the process, and I think it'll be of real benefit to the city to have these selections made through the council in advance of the vacancies that will eventually come. Thank you, each one of you. Next item is a sort of a complicated one, and Larry will present it. I think we'll have a lot of discussion on filling vacant council members' positions. Larry, take it over.
Oh, boy. Well, there are a lot of things that are in play with regard to the current status of council vacancies. As you can see, we have 4 here in attendance by person and 1 remote. And so we only have 5. We have currently 2 positions that are vacant that should be filled. Normally, as I stated in my memo, the process of filling the vacancy starts with an advertisement with the Sentinel. We've done that 4 times, twice for each of the open council positions, and no interest was, there was no letters of intent or any interest by anybody that lived in the city limits regarding those positions. There is kind of a timeline that is required to be met. You have a total of 90 days in which to appoint a new person to the council vacancy. And since we have 2, Shannon gave his notice in April of 2021, and Julie gave her notice in mid-May of 2021. So as you can see, we're already 60 days in on Shannon Middleton's appointment of replacement. So we do need to act at this meeting or next to take a position on that. The other thing that has happened is there has been a candidacy open filing period, and there were 5 positions open on that, and there were six people that filed for each of those positions. Actually, no, that's right. So if I digress for a moment, I'm going to give you a background on each of the positions that are currently available and where they stand and what their status is. So Shannon Middleton is in position number 6. He gave his resignation on April 5th, as I mentioned before, and his appointment, or anybody that's appointed to that position, would serve until the election is certified. The current position was open for filing on May 2017 through 21, and Ellie Casey filed for that elected position and is running unopposed. Julie Buck also has given her resignation, as I mentioned. Her appointment would end again. She was appointed, so as soon as the election is certified, then she would serve starting at that point. She also filed for, or not, in that position, it was open for filing in the week of 17 through 21, and Steve Johnston has filed for that elected position and is running unopposed. Kevin Fiat holds position number 5 and has filed for this elected position. He is running unopposed. Mylan Walling at position 4 has filed for an elected position, and Ashley Cooper has also filed for this elected position. This is the only contested race. Lauren Meager currently holds position number 3, and filed for his re-election. He is running unopposed. So that's kind of the lay of the land. I can just answer questions at this point. I would say that the key time frame that we need to be dealing with is for the 90-day requirement. That we have to have an appointment, somebody appointed to that position within 90 days, or else it goes to the county commissioners for their approval.
Kevin has his hand up.
Okay, Kevin has his hand up.
Yes, Kevin?
Yeah, do you want me to wait till the end of the meeting, or should I jump in now?
Go ahead and jump in.
All right, it is my displeasure to say that after a long talk with both the mayor and Mr. Sorry, tongue's not working. I am not in the state of Washington right now. I have not been in the state of Washington for domestic reasons for a few months. And I have to relinquish my position and step down. I do apologize. I hope I would have been a help. I hope I've been beneficial. I tried. But that adds a more complicated thing to the conversation that Larry just had. That's it.
Thank you, Kevin. So there's more to this.
So on position 6 and 7, since those two positions are empty and those people are running unopposed, can we put them into their seats now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
If they're, I assume that they're willing to serve because they said that they filled out their candidacy for the position. So yes, you could.
But that still leaves a vacancy in position 5 with Kevin's now resignation and nobody running since.
Right.
Well,
They're,
but then with that one though, we have extra time. With these other two, we're getting kind of short on time to get those filled. So if we can get those two filled, if we can appoint those people, that could eliminate that problem for now. Now we can focus on Kevin's position.
we do have one contested race, remember?
Right.
So we could appoint the person who is contesting Mylan's position.
That could work too.
And they could serve the rest of Kevin's term. And then depending on how the election works out, either way, they would either stay in their same positions or switch. And
Where Kevin had filed but nobody else has filed, that position would need to be filled for the full term as well, beyond
yes,
the election.
yes. One thing that you'll see, we did call the auditor's office to see if his name could be removed from the list, but it was past the time, so you'll still see Kevin's name on the list, but it won't really matter because he's already resigned and we'll already have appointed somebody to that.
Would we need
Larry, not to
something?
make the joke, but I have to. You know I'm going to get more votes than everybody there.
So in that case, are we going to need a new resignation once he's elected?
No,
Already.
he's already resigned.
Well, he's resigning to the position that he's holding right now, but once the election happens and that election is sealed,
You have a good point.
he is now
I
re-elected
could call the
to fill
auditor's
that
office
position.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you have a good point.
Or we can just elect to not take his resignation then. Because, yeah, he would be a new elected official again.
I'll call the auditor's office
We
tomorrow.
got clarification, yes.
So on position 6 and 7, do we need a motion from them?
You could do it that way, yes.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion for L.A. Casey to be, put into position 6, and Steve Johnson put into position 7, effective next meeting?
Next meeting would be perfect.
Pending their
Pending,
acceptance of the
yeah,
position.
there you
Do
go.
they do that, or do they have to apply for appointment, or?
Yeah,
Well, from what I read, it says we can appoint people, right? Is that how I read the?
That's it.
if you read did you get that from
Well,
as far as?
I
this
read through,
Yeah.
I wasn't here, or the email, not email, but online on the information we got. I mean, I'm under the assumption that we can appoint them, and since there's no other people that applied.
Right. Okay, well, back up on your motion.
Okay.
Let's look at RCW 42-1207, which I think is the last page of your packet. And it says on the yellow highlighted areas, where one position is vacant, the remaining members of the governing body shall appoint a qualified person to fill a vacant position. The process of doing that is really a decision that the council has to make, but you have the power to appoint. In the past, we have used the process where we go out and advertise, and we receive letters of intent, have interviews, and all of that. You don't have to do that. If you remember, I think when Julie was
Yeah.
on, I think it was done by motion.
Yep.
It was not done, oh, and then I should say, the other way we've done it before, is we've done an open ballot.
Yep.
And so like I say, there's several different ways you can go about it, but the one other way that we're talking about doing tonight is actually making a motion to appoint a
Yep.
position a person to a particular position.
So the only thing would be that second item where 2 or more positions are vacant, then we basically appoint one person first,
Yes.
that person becomes part of the body, and then the whole body appoints another one,
Correct.
and then another one.
Correct.
So one at a time, so.
Yes.
So probably the best way we have to do it is not have a motion.
Okay.
But say it's your intent, if these people want to serve and be appointed to the council, that they all show up at the next council meeting, and we can do it just like what you suggested, Phil. Where you
Okay.
appoint one, that person sits, you're given the oath
So
of
at that point,
office.
they'll be sworn in, correct?
One at
They'll
a
be
time.
given the oath of
Okay.
office, right?
Okay.
Then you'll that group will make a motion for the second one, and then that person will be seated and the oath of office taken, and then you do the third one.
So would it be fair then to have Andy amend his motion from appointment to direct the administration to contact these individuals and
Sure.
see if they would be willing to come in for next council and accept those positions if
Yes.
appointed?
Yes.
That works for me.
Well, we have one of these gentlemen in the audience here tonight, we
Yes,
could
it
just
does.
ask him directly, but I don't know.
You what?
Would you like to be appointed? I know you have some feelings about appointed officials.
I do. Yes, I do. It's very unfortunate. It's real unfortunate that the council has to be filled like this. It's not fair to the citizens of this community, for one thing. But being as I'm here, I mean, I was ready to run, I would feel much better if I was elected by the people in the community. I would feel much better if every position here was elected by the
You still have to
citizens.
be elected, you're still gonna be on the ballot. You still have to be elected.
Well, when you're running unopposed,
That's
it's
why we're,
a moot point.
that's why we're taking this approach to kind of
And I
get it
know
over
this,
with.
I understand there's due process.
Yes.
I understand that. And again, it's very unfortunate that the city council has degenerated to the level or the point it has. But nevertheless, we're in a hole, we'll climb up out of it. And I respectively accept the appointment. It's as simple as that. And we'll get the ball rolling.
I think you raise a good point though, and you know, I talked to a number of people to try and encourage them to apply for positions that were open of appointment or to run in my place, and had a really challenging time to even warm people up to the idea. And so I think that one of the things that the city needs to look at is finding ways to encourage the public to participate more. There's obviously fiscal benefits. I don't know if there's other benefits or incentives we can provide to people, but I would suggest that the council consider that because we do need more engagement. And I've heard that from folks that were retired and off doing other things, and I heard that from young folks raising families and trying to juggle the benefits of, you know, working, raising kids, doing all that kind of stuff. And so I think that, I guess I'll make a motion to say that the council will dedicate itself to an effort to have better recruitment on our next election cycle and take what other steps we need to do that.
If I might add, part of the process where, well, like Larry mentioned, which isn't absolutely required, and that is running in a piece in the paper. Don't bury it in the back of the paper. That'd be a good start. Make this editor-in-chief become part of this community. That newspaper is one of our best sources. But that would be a good start as far as I'm concerned. Let's see something like that on the front page. Why not? And along those lines, you bet, the council needs to put on their thinking hats and let's get creative, because I've ran into the same thing. And the apathy is palatable for various reasons.
I got you. I hear you completely. And definitely gave you the floor to talk about your willingness to take the appointment, and it'll be fun working together. But there is a motion on the table, and until there's a second, we should discuss that. And I'll just restate the motion that council works and takes measures to provide increased incentives for council participation before the next election.
I'll do
All of us.
I'll second it, I guess. There you go.
It's been moved and seconded that the council will work to increase incentives and understanding and involvement in running and becoming part of the city council in the future. All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Kevin has his hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Mayor, I'm sorry. This is the last time you have to deal with me. Last city council meeting, we had this conversation, and if the time schedule was still there to run. We also, it was ran in the paper, and it might have been on the last page, but it's the Goldendale Sentinel. It's not 55 pages long. If people want to be part of the community, I beg them to be part of the community. I beg them to embrace everything that's going on. I agree with the motion. However, we do need to do a better job of involving the people. But when people already know what's going on, when people already know what's happening, coming back and being an armchair quarterback, I don't know if that's acceptable. I digress, sorry. Last time you have to hear from me, well, maybe not. We still have another hour of meeting.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks for supporting a motion to take action on that, doing that before the next election cycle.
Very good. All in favor of the motion? Did we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
I was so busy listening to Kevin waiting for his vote. Thank you, everyone. We'll make an effort to organize this so that we do have more improvement on public involvement. The things that you do in council involves the public from the beginning. The people that elected you are part of what's already involved in this council. I don't think we've digressed a bit. We've had people that moved. They didn't move because they didn't like council. They moved because of other things that happened in their life. They were positive things. So I really do take action on that side of it. We're not digressing. We're trying to do the best job we can do as a city council, mayor included. So that's where we are. Thank you.
So I guess with Steve's input, I'll make a motion that we appoint Steve.
Well, we're
Did
gonna
I
wait
get
till,
this wrong?
yeah, we made the motion to like, what was it? We worded it.
Well, actually, we kind of have Andy's motion still on the table as well.
Okay,
And then Bill was making some suggestions as far as
Amending the
Amending it.
motion.
amending it.
yeah. I thought we
So-
voted on that.
Did we vote on that
I
already?
thought we did. But then I never.
Yes, we didn't, I thought we did, but.
Did we vote on that?
I'm confused, you guys have me.
Okay, go for it, Andy, do it again.
Well, I don't remember all the wordage now. I mean,
Well, let me help you out.
okay,
Okay, so we have 3 positions that are open. And we have to appoint them in succession,
Right.
and they have to be given the oath of office after each selection is made, or after each appointment is made. So we have to do 1, then give the oath of office, 2, then gives the second oath of office, and then that group will select the 3rd one.
Exactly.
We've done them all before at the same time. The oath of office.
Well, we've done the oath of office at the same time, but the way this works out,
You have to do them one at a
you
time.
gotta do them one at a time.
Okay, I have to do it 3 times.
Sorry, I'm gonna ask a question that's gonna extend this more, but, do we have to first accept Kevin's resignation? And then an ancillary question to that is, are we obligated at this point due to his extended absence?
Well, the way that I read the MRC information is, it's pretty simple to resign. You could just say, I quit, I'm done, I'm out of here, and you in effect have resigned from your position. I don't read anything in here that says you have to accept it at a certain time. You just have to be notified that you intend to resign from your council member position.
And it has to be announced at a meeting.
Okay.
Not to be a dick, Larry, but you know I am.
You're done, you're resigned already, so.
I know. But the word I quit, to me that seems a little harsh. I did not want to do this. I have to follow the RCW. I have to follow the law. This was not something I wanted to do. And I still hope to come back to the city, to my city.
And that's great, Kevin. I did not intend for that description on how somebody could resign from their position to be speaking about you, of course. That was just an example given in the guidance that I have here from MRSC on how simple
I
it was.
understand. I just don't want, I do not want the city thinking that I abandoned them. That is not what happened.
No, and I think, Kevin, we recognize and appreciate your understanding of RCW to start with that created the situation and your acceptance of what had to be done or what needed to be done. I think you should be commended for the steps you've taken.
Okay, so getting back to the,
can we just rescind all of the, I know he had a start of a motion, I had one, and we just table this and deal with it next, put it on the next agenda? Would that be easier than a motion?
yes,
Okay, then I rescind my motion.
okay, but I think that you need to make it clear to us that you want us to contact each of these individuals to attend next council meeting if
Yes.
they're interested in being appointed.
Can't they just concur then?
Yeah, that's just a concurrence, I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's, we don't need a motion for that.
You don't need a motion.
Okay.
But we do need concurrence.
Yeah,
Agreed.
That's
Yep.
fine.
That sounds good, but I would like a motion about working to improve recruitment.
Well, that motion was made.
we did that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
We did that one.
thanks for keeping me on track.
So then we'll invite Mr. Johnston along with the other applicants.
Miss Casey and Ashley Simpson.
Cooper.
Ashley Cooper. That's the wrong. Okay.
You
Ashley
watch The
Cooper.
Simpsons?
No.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very good. And we're completed with that. council business, all right.
Finally.
I knew that last one was going to be tough. We'll go now to report of officers and city administrator, and we'll hear first from Larry Bellamy.
I'm good.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, don't give up so
be
quick.
still my heart.
Hey, Larry, you still have a whole year and a month.
Oh, yeah.
Then we'll ask for a report from our Mayor Pro Tem, Andy Hall.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Kevin for being on city council for the time he was. And second thing, I'd like to just say happy Pride to all the LGBTQ plus community in Goldendale and in the area, and all the allies of the LGBTQ plus community. That's it.
Phil, any comments?
Yeah, I will second Andy's both comments. First, Kevin, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun actually at times, long discussions on different subjects, but it makes it for fun. I always say we don't make enough money, but if we can make it fun, then that's what I'm here for sometimes. The other thing is, yes, I'm not sure how we're going to do recruitment. And then I could have commented earlier, but I think that's, it doesn't, contrary to popular belief, it doesn't represent the council members. It represents our community, unfortunately, and the state in which we are, because we're having the same problem at the fire departments nationwide, that there is phasing out of volunteering, sense of belonging to your community, giving back to your community, giving back to your country. That's kind of phasing out with different generations. I guess we receive kind of a stipend for being part of this, but essentially it's a volunteer position. It's a lot of work to spend hours and reviewing packets and on the phone and, you know, hearing from the public on your own time when you're at work, when you're out at different events, somebody comes up to you unhappy with what's going on. I don't get paid enough for that, you know. And I think people realize that you have to be willing to
Give service.
give service, yeah. So definitely it's not reflective of this council. I think every single one of us here has given and gives more than plenty. So I am excited to welcome new members and old members back, and other people can take on the torch and have the great discussions we've been having this last year.
Thank you. Mylon?
Well, I'll relate to Phil's comment on how volunteers is difficult. I know when he mentioned the volunteer firemen, that's been a problem going on for some time. And I don't know, of course, for the volunteer firemen, we're trying to come up with some incentive. And I don't know whatever incentives we could come up with for a council member. Maybe I guess that would be the committee to decide if there is anything that we could come up with some additional incentive. I also want to comment that I've invited Albiel Virgil, who is the director of the Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs, and she will be coming to Goldendale here at the end of the month, and we don't have a confirmed date yet, but she will be coming with her deputy director. We'll be touring the Stonehenge Memorial, and then after that, then we'll have a luncheon at the Goldendale American Legion. And so anyway, I was on the phone today talking more details about it. I just one of the meetings that I'm setting up this summer, and hopefully later on there'll be some more meetings and tours and whatever that I'm planning on having for the city of Goldendale. So
Very good.
anyway, I just want to make that comment there.
We appreciate your efforts.
Yeah.
Lauren?
Thanks. A question for Larry, just coming out of the discussion tonight, and some input I received from the public, and that's about the capital outlay budget. I wonder if there's, with the extension of that seasonal employee, if there's any additional room to work on painting some of the crosswalks on the main arterials as they get busier. It would be great to be able to pencil that in just to try and present some of the input that comes to me as a council member. And I think in terms of recruitment, like just doing more to educate the community about their ability to have influence and some things like that and other input, like just hopefully showing that, you know, you really do have a chance to make a difference. And also maybe some additional council work as we're getting back to increased communication and meeting in person for the citizens to come in and visit with council or talk to individual council members so that we have the opportunity to take that knowledge and apply it here at city council around the table and influence changes to reflect our community. You know, it's never going to pay on an hour-for-hour basis and sort of profitable means, and it definitely comes at a cost. I know this evening I would have rather gone to a 4-H sheep meeting with my daughters and caught a few smallmouth bass on the river, but I'm also proud and happy to spend my time here with you guys, doing my duty as a citizen, I feel like, and fulfilling my obligations and helping influence the community that my kids are being raised in. So I think those are they're somewhat intangible sometimes, but they're very significant benefits to participate on council, and I hope that we see increased participation on council. And then lastly, I want to thank Kevin for his participation and some very long-winded, drawn-out, lengthy conversations with off-the-wall comments, and actually I think resulted in some really good things, some positive communication and discussion on city council, and I think we wound up some places that are helpful that we wouldn't have wound up without Kevin's input. So thank you for your participation, Kevin, and hopefully we see you back here in Goldendale when it works out.
Great. Kevin, did you have a further remark?
Yeah, actually, I would like to address a couple things. I would like to thank Lauren for translating Kevin into normal speech. He understands me. We have conversations in other places, and he knows what I'm saying. But I also want to thank Phil. I don't, and this is not a shot at anybody. Phil has an ability to make an opinion and listen to everybody else and change his opinion, which is rare in today's politics. He's able to listen to everybody and figure things out from there. And that is a wise man that can just sit there and listen to everybody's opinion and change his own opinion. It's humble. I'd like to thank the mayor. I'd like to thank Larry. I'd like to thank all of you all for the opportunity. And once again, I hope I was beneficial in no matter how small my efforts were. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And I think on behalf of the council, you did fine. We appreciate all that you've done, including understanding this situation right now. As far as mayor's remarks, so many times in the city council, we work very, very hard, both city government and city council, to be able to avoid the city being placed in liability situations where we could be sued for millions and millions for something that we were aware of but didn't act on. And I'm particularly going to be concentrating on the situation of roads such as Pipeline, that is part county responsibility, part city responsibility, and part state responsibility, particularly for overloaded, above weight situations for logging trucks and other things of that nature. I'll be checking that. I'll be looking at what signage we need. All those things that we need to do to avoid being caught up in something where we knew it was a problem, but we didn't act. And so that's going to be something that I'll be bringing before the ordinance committee in particular, and discussions in the council, so that we have a unified understanding of what I'm talking about. But I think we need to be very much aware of the dangers of liability for our city. With that, we'll go to public comment. Anyone on the line or here in the room that would like to make a public comment? Mr. Hochter.
Larry.
Come on up.
Turn your camera around, I don't want to be
earlier when they were speaking about the lack of notice, I remember hearing it on the radio. So there was other notice other than what was in the paper. And the paper is there for legal notices, so you put your official notice in the paper rather than buying an ad. So it was out there.
Yeah, thanks for noting that, Larry.
Yeah.
I'll just add on too, that I know myself and other city councilors were advertising via word of mouth,
Yeah.
trying to redo improvement, so,
Yeah.
but I appreciate your noticing
And I
that.
was kind of disappointed, some of the people that applied, signed up for election, didn't apply to finish the terms. That's kind of disheartening. Getting back to the lack of interest on the public, I think.
I think some of the apathy has come more from what we've experienced over this last year of COVID. I mean, we blame everything on COVID, but I think that's one of those things. I'm still hanging on to my mask, not quite turning loose of it yet. It feels better without it, but every time I go out of the house without it, I feel like I need a hat or something.
Right.
So I think we'll get through this. I think there's been a lot of real blessings from what we experienced as a nation and as a community on COVID and learning how to protect ourselves. I'm hoping this mask will do a whole lot for the hay fever I'm going through right now. We'll see if it's going to be put to the test. Any others for public comment?
Actually, myself.
Thank you. Good.
So I am actually Ellie Casey, and I'm the one who filed to fill position number 6.
I hope so.
I didn't hear it on the radio, and I don't read the Goldendale Sentinel newspaper. So I didn't know. If you would like me to write a letter, I will get one in here to you tomorrow. Otherwise, I filed. Hi, nice to meet y'all. And there you go.
We're looking forward to working with you. Very nice.
I look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you for
Thank you.
filing, and I hope
Nice to see you come to the meeting and find out what's going on before you're appointed.
Yeah.
Thank you for filing, and I hope we see you apply for appointment beforehand as well.
Rogers.
Thank you.
Yes, Roger.
Thank you. Hey, I'd like to thank Kevin on the position of a reporter for making some very interesting stories over the past few years. Really interesting.
Well, you know, this evening while we were going back home, cold and a little bit chilled, Kevin will be having an ice cream out in the sunshine. It's just the way that goes. Any other for public comment? If not, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
We moved to adjourn city council for June 7th, 2021. All in favor, please say aye.
Second, I'll second, and aye.
All done. Thank you, Kevin.
And for the last time, I say aye.
Very good.